Good morning, folks. Welcome to this session on customer journey with Lifecycle Services. Very excited to see a good turnout here, and this is the first breakout session, of course, for the conference itself. I would like to start with introducing myself. I'm Meera Mahabala. I'm the Group Program Manager for Lifecycle Services. I've been on the team for about 6+ months now. And I've been with Dynamics AX extended, including retail actually is where I was for many years before that. So with me I also have Manali Dongre, who's a senior program manager on my team. And she also manages a lot of the servicing and monitoring diagnostics, onboarding, a number of other such scenarios for Lifecycle Services. So excited to present to you. A quick introduction to a couple of engineers at the back who are here to support us for questions and anything else that you might have. We have Basma, Sanket and Ryan back at the back there who will also be here to assist as needed. So before we go a little bit deeper, a quick show of hands on folks who are already on Dynamics 365 for operations. Okay, 2012 sounds good. Medium set, I guess, and then 2009. Okay, so sounds good. So we have quite a good mix of people here. And as you all might know, Lifecycle Services in the 2012 timeframe was more of an optional sort of a lifecycle management in portal, right? But going into Dynamics 365 for operations, this is the only way that you can deploy, manage, even try out an instance of Dynamics 365 for operations. And with that, let's get started here and go a little bit more into the agenda and things like that. So the way we have structured this particular session is we have shipped Dynamics 365 for operations for a year now, right? So it's about a year as of March. And essentially we're trying to focus on some of the top 10 enhancements that we've made for Lifecycle Services. But given the ratio of the audience, we will provide context as and when needed to tell you more about what exactly we do with each of those. So we're sort of walking through 1 to 10 enhancements across the various phases of the customer life cycle itself. And as we are doing that, we have plenty of demos that we are doing. So we'll switch back and forth and see how this infrastructure works with that, but that's our plan, that we will show you each enhancement and then we will demo how it can be done. So we'll walk through each of those, and we have quite a bit of time we are spending on demos, especially to do with servicing and monitoring diagnostics, some of that areas, and some others we will introduce, and we have deep dive topics in rest of the conference that you can go to listen to more about it itself. So with that, let's go quickly into what Lifecycle Services is. So this particular slide, I hope many of you have already seen it. This is essentially, of course, going through the customer journey of discover, define, develop, and operate. That's how we look at the 4 phases of the customer journey itself. And of course, we start with the discover phase, and that's where we talk about how somebody new to Dynamics 365 for operations comes in, finds it, discovers it, and also tries some of the operations within there. And we have tools to support that whole model. And then the next phase is around definition. So once the discover is complete, you can go into defining the basic customer project itself and how some of the more business processes, methodology, things like that you can do with it is. The phase after that is, of course, the implementation, build, or the develop phase, as we call it. We have plenty of support for this. We support a developer ALM story, but with that, we also support a set of environments that we provide with a standard subscription of Dynamics 365 for operations, which includes sandbox, dev test, a build machine, and a production machine. So that is something where you can get significantly into the environment itself and start using it, and we will demonstrate a lot of that capabilities as we go on. And finally, operate, right? So operate is when you are live with your production system and you're already, the customer is using the system actively. So as you go through that, our expectation is that as a cloud hosted ERP system, you will continuously update your system, right, with your customizations, with platform updates that we provide, and how do you keep up to date and constantly change the system while it's in use by your customers. So that's a big part of what we will address in the operate phase, and we'll go into that in significant amount of detail too. So with Lifecycle Services, one of the models we follow is monthly release cycles. And this is, of course, enabled because we're a cloud portal, right? We make monthly updates where we actually enhance continuously the way you manage all these various phases within your life cycle. So to do that, we update, but we also put out there using a blog what are some of the features that we are releasing with each update. So I haven't put it in here, but there's in MSDN blogs. If you search for Lifecycle Services, there is a blog that we continuously update monthly, and even if we fix something in between the month, right, in a couple of weeks, we update to say what's that new update that you can use and avail of. So our goal is definitely to be as agile as possible and continuously make improvements in the way you manage your customer's life cycle. So with that, we will start deep diving into some of these various tools that we have across these various phases. So we'll go on to the first tool itself that we have here, which is about try hands-on the latest version of operations. So this is about when your customer comes in and they're trying to get their hands on Dynamics 365 for operations. How do they go about trying out some of the first versions of this? So we'll go into seeing what are some of the options we have available for the trials itself within operations. So for web, one of the big major introductions we made in November was around web trials. So what we have today is a way by which you can just provide your email address and a first name, last name, and a company location, company name and location, and then you can sign up for a trial that gives you a Dynamics 365 for operations with a set of task guides or workspaces so that you can try hands-on how this can be used. This is a free trial. It's available for 30 days only, and you can of course invite additional users as you need to, and it is also available as localized trials. This is the website, and I will demonstrate it in a bit after walking through a couple of other options, but feel free to take down the URL and try it yourself. This is available and should be operational for every click that you make. The next option is self-hosted trials. Many of you might already be using some of this. This is through LCS. You can provision a demo environment, and we also have an 18-month trial that we offer to partners that's available, where they can use demo data, they can configure the customer-specific data, they can do proof of concept kind of work. So that is something that is available. So it's open for more customizations as needed. And the last one that we have there is from AppSource. So one of the major push we have made is to make available multiple ISV solutions for Dynamics 365 for operations. So this is across various verticals. So these solutions are curated solutions that are available through our AppSource. And we have a model by which they can make their changes and make them available through Lifecycle Services, and hence make them visible to their various customers itself. So let me go ahead and quickly demo that these two options to you. I'm going to go ahead and first go into the website that I was talking about. So this is basically discoverable from the marketing page for Dynamics 365 for operations. So any of you can go to this website and you can click Get Started here. So when we say Get Started, essentially what it's going to prompt me for is an email address. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my email address, and you can just say sign up. So this is something you can make available to your potential customers who would like to try Dynamics 365 for operations. In my particular case, I'm not a new sign up, but I'm an existing sign up, and what you will see is it brings in operations instance in a few seconds, and this is the exact same experience that there'll be for a brand new user or a user who's coming back into Dynamics 365 for operations. What we have done is, and what we have made this particular instance of Dynamics 365 for operations do is, you can go ahead and say dive in, and we are using the task guide experience to essentially navigate the user. So if this user has never seen Dynamics 365 for operations, they can go ahead and click one by one, and they can go ahead and see any of the task guides that are needed. So you can, for example, say getting started here, and you can follow the set of steps that are available within the task guide itself. So this will actually lead you through to say click ledger, budget, and forecast. So you can go ahead and click that, and then you can see the experience one by one. So this is really like a step-by-step experience that leverages the power of task guides with the ability to show a single web experience for a user who's new to Dynamics AX. A couple of things I will point out. This is showing within a single legal entity, so it is scoped to a single legal entity, and though that is limited, our hope is this gives the initial test drive experience. You would have seen that the list of workspaces that initially showed up were also limited. That is something that we are constraining through roles that are available. With time, we will add more roles and make them available, but it's really a guided test drive experience is what we are trying to bring into this entire experience, and that's what we have enabled here. So with that, what I will do is I will quickly switch gears and demonstrate the app source, which is available as a marketplace for all Dynamics 365 applications itself. So what you can do, so this is for ISV applications, you can go ahead and you can see that you can refine by category, you can refine by industry, and you can of course refine by the product too. So I'm going to go ahead and refine by Dynamics 365, and you will see there are app results and there are partner results that show up. So to go to the app results itself, you can go ahead and say see all applications, and you can refine to see only operations, for example. So you can see only the operations app as you want to, and then of course once you see any of these specific ISV solutions that you're interested in, you can go ahead and click on them, and what we have today is we have a way to contact the person itself. So what it's a lead that's generated, you can fill the form out, and this essentially goes back to the ISV to make a demo environment available to them itself. So to do the demo environment and to become a curated solution within Dynamics 365 for operations, and specifically within Lifecycle Services, what we have available is within Lifecycle Services, we have a whole queue of things that you can upload within to make your solution and deploy your solution. So the lead goes to the specific ISV, and they can use any of these packages that they use in their solution to deploy, and they can make it available to the customer itself. So quickly, let me walk you through some of the things we have here. We have, of course, the solution package available. We have software deployable packages available. So if you have code packages, you can make them available here. We have the ability to add process data packages. So the ability to, if you are addressing a specific industry vertical, you can have packages that enable setup of that particular industry vertical itself, and that is something that you can make available here. Some of the other interesting artifacts are there. You can do Power BI reports and analytics that you can bring into your solution, and those assets can be added here. Of course, we have the concept of marketing assets that you can add in. And then, of course, there are things like Cortana intelligence application files. So we have the ability that you can add intelligence into your applications, and in which case, if you're integrating with the Cortana intelligence suite to enable product recommendations or any such intelligent features, you can bring in those assets here. So when somebody clicks on the Contact Me card and you get a lead into the system, the specific ISV will actually go into Lifecycle Services. They will deploy these bits as needed, and then they will make a demo environment available to their customer. So that is sort of the end-to-end process that we are envisioning with this itself. So with that, let me go back into my slide deck here. So the next point that we want to bring out is around business process modeler to represent and manage some of the complex projects that you might have. BPM is something that we have had for a while. Something I want to point out is some of the changes also that we are making right now. So of course the business process model to start with is a semantic definition of the business process. We have multiple business process models available out of the box, and most of you also choose to create your own depending on the vertical you operate in, and that is exactly what we are looking for. You often start with the models that we ship, and then you extend those models. So that is something, that's exactly what we are looking for that you would do. The task recordings and task guides, the kind that I just showed, is something that you can make available at each of these BPM nodes. So you can actually show the power of your application, or you can see the out-of-the-box applications, what capabilities through the same BPM. The main two benefits out of the entire BPM tree that we have brought in right within Lifecycle Services is, one is around its Visual Studio Team Services integration. So as we want BPM not only to be the tool that you use for fit gap analysis and things like that, but we also want it to become the tool for management of your implementation. So as you identify gaps within your implementation, we have a Visual Studio Team Services integration, so you can manage the entire implementation cycle within VSTS itself. So that is something that we allow you to go back and forth on. The other big benefit here is around configuration. So our goal is certainly to improve the time it takes to go live, right? So with that, we have configuration packages that we ship out of the box that you can sequence, you can group, you can search, and you can apply on any environment that you choose. And you can also, with that, you can also attach it to the business process model, and you can say which parts of it you're executing. So both of these together provide great benefits, and we have a deep dive session that's available that will go specifically into this. We're making a lot of improvements, especially in the configuration management, data management. How do you bootstrap data into your system itself? And that is something that you should attend some of the deep dive sessions on. So with that, let's go quickly back into and I will just show you a glimpse on the new BPM process. So some of you might have seen this specific BPM process before. This is it. Right now in preview, we have a new experience available. It will be generically available to all of you very soon, by the end of March actually. So this is essentially the new model by which you can see the various business process models. Some of the improvements we have made is not only in the UI, but also in the performance, which given the length and sizes of these new business process models, some of that was needed to basically expedite the way you can see them. So with that, let's go into one of this. This is a standard business process model that I have already looked into, and let's go ahead and see some of the things that you can do with this. I'm going to go ahead and open one of this. Let's go say it's produce product, and maybe we want to do the execute this, and I'm going to go all the way down to the leaf level. But you'll see that it's quite snappy in the way it's expanding each node, if you've seen this before. So I'm going to go into create a production order, and what you see is, of course, you see the various details of this particular node, but you can also see the Word document that generates a task guide information for this particular node. So this is something that has a task guide associated with it, and we can see the task guide right here, and you can see what are the steps to execute that within AX. So that is available right here. We also allow to store activity diagrams. That is something that we allow. We also have a way to contact Visual Studio Team Server, actually go in, create a work item for this particular instance in VSTS and take a look at it. So that is something that we also have available. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into this in a whole lot of detail, but as you can see, this whole integration is available within LCS, and as the project proceeds with Visual Studio Team Server, you can certainly come back, and this is the representation within Visual Studio and how you manage the specific work item itself. And you can come back and then you can manage it, and you can even view dashboards on how some of these items are executing. So let's go back into the next item. So the very next item we have here is on methodology. So some of you might be familiar with the methodology that we have shipped, and essentially what we have is besides SureStep, we have also a methodology that's shipped by our solution architecture team. Of course, many of you partners also ship your own methodologies that's available, and this is something that is not just it's most often a checklist approach, and also one of the benefits of it is steps can be automated within it. So you can have steps that actually open the sandbox environment, do a certain operation within LCS, and that we hope will steer a lot of guided workflows that you can bring in. For example, the new upgrade that we are introducing will be introduced through a methodology. That's how we will enable it and make it available through LCS, and we hope that's one way in which you can make sure that the various steps are tracked, and you can track progress within the project and things like that. So what I mentioned right here in this slide is a few features that we want to bring in to actually enhance the experience in the way the standard methodologies are shipped from Microsoft but can be leveraged by by the partners and then distributed to the various customers. So we want to make it more templatized, so this is work that will come in. We want to also be able to streamline it such that you can use it for multiple customer implementations. We want to make it such that if you leverage a standard Microsoft methodology and we make updates to the methodology, you can bring it in and you can take it and use it within your methodology implementations. So things like that will come in, and also you can update multiple projects simultaneously to use the new process by doing a single update to the template. So control of the template by both us and by you as the partner, so that you can send out this across the various phases. So with that, I'll hand it over to Manali to talk about some of the other new features that we have added.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Priya. Can you switch that?
Start, right? Let's try it again. So, this is me. This is me.
I think that's you. Sorry for the issues.
There.
Okay, good. We're all set up. Okay, so number 4, kind of on the top 10 list, one of the features that we added was go global with the translation service. This was a feature that we added in about the January timeframe of the LCS release. Partners and customers have a lot of assets that you want to translate, especially when you have businesses that operate in different geos. And what we've done is, through LCS, we've enabled a simple way for you to go ahead, upload your assets, and get it translated. In the back end, we use sort of the Microsoft Translator Hub technology, which basically uses machine learning that increases the accuracy of your translations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you like a quick demo as to how that works out. So this is my Lifecycle Services project. What that shows up.
Did you stop the...
Yeah. Let's see what's going on. Okay. Hopefully that fixes it.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So this is my Lifecycle Services project, and I'm going to go into localization and translation. Basically, this is where I can go ahead and upload the assets that I want to go ahead and get translated. When I enter there, initially I need to agree to certain terms and conditions. I'm going to hit enter. And what this is showing me is basically a dashboard view of the progress of all of the translations that I've submitted. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. When I do that, I'm going to say I want to create a tech ready demo 4. Let's copy that. I'm going to say my target region is France. French is the only language that I know remotely other than the ones that I know, so I'm going to select that. My source is English, and I'm going to go ahead and select that. And let's just select French. I'm going to hit create. When I do that, the next thing, today the way it's set up is that this translation service supports natively AX label files. So if there are any customizations and you have any specific labels that you want to get translated, you can leverage this service. They are looking to extend this for other asset types as well. So think of it, if you have task guides that you want to get translated for training materials and stuff like that, you can go ahead and use this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to upload this zip file. I'm going to say it's okay for Microsoft to retain that file, and I'm going to hit submit. It takes a couple of seconds for it to go ahead from processing to completed. What I'd done was I had set one up already. I'm going to go ahead and open that. It's going to show me the file that I had submitted, what is the output of that file. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. And what you're going to see is this was the original file that was there with all of the labels in English. And this is the translated version of that file in French. For those of you who might understand it, should be able to verify the accuracy of it. But that's pretty much how you can go ahead and get any of your assets translated using this service. Switching kind of to the next one, we're going to switch gears a bit here. We're going to move into sort of the operate phase of the life cycle. Over the last couple of months, we've invested very heavily in this area. Sort of once you've gone live, what are the things, tools, processes, systems that you need to ensure that you can operate your environment, right? The first one kind of on the list is log and triage support incidents and manage service requests. For those who are familiar with 2009-2012, the incident management system was a bit disconnected from the actual system that you would use to manage your the life cycle of your application. And so what we want to do is we want Lifecycle Services to be sort of the one-stop shop where you come in and you can do all of the things that you would normally do in managing the life cycle of your application. So the first kind of the flow that I'm going to talk about is how do you go about logging a support incident, and how does that show up in Lifecycle Services? So we have a typical end user who's going about their day-to-day work, and they go ahead and they encounter some issue. Let's say there's a performance issue when logging journal entries. What they can do is they can go ahead and they can create a ticket from the Dynamics 365 for Operations client itself. And what they can, once they do that, what we do is in the backend, we collect a lot of rich metadata information about what form they're on and things like that, which eventually will help with the troubleshooting of that issue. When that issue is reported, it gets logged in the customer's Visual Studio account. This is something that a customer sets up as a part of their project setup in Lifecycle Services. It's kind of the first steps that you do. Once this ticket gets logged in the VSTS for the customer, the IT admin for that customer kind of is notified that this ticket was created. Now what they're going to go ahead and do is sort of start doing the first level of triage, the first level of troubleshooting. The IT admin can then go ahead and start troubleshooting the issue through Lifecycle Services. We have a very rich monitoring and diagnostics portal that lets you do that, and I'll show it here in just kind of the next section. Once they've done the troubleshooting for that issue, if they've identified that this issue is not something that is caused either through customization or it's not a permissions issue, and if they find this is something that's coming out of Microsoft's code, then they can go ahead and escalate this issue to Microsoft. The idea of this entire flow is to sort of maintain the trail of what's going on as the issue is diagnosed by various stakeholders, as it flows through the IT admin to the partner, to Microsoft. Everything is maintained within the context of that incident. The second flow that I'm going to talk about is a bit different. Dynamics 365 for Operations is a cloud service. And with that, the way it works is Microsoft is kind of responsible for managing and operating your production environment. What that means is that in 2012 or in 2009, there were certain operations that you did that were initially, that was some things that were that was managed by you. In this case, this is something that you're going to have to submit a request to Microsoft to execute. Having said that, as we're scaling, we're looking to automate as many of these maintenance requests and make them self-serve. That way you can do it through LCS over the next couple of months. So the flow for that is you have an IT admin who submits a maintenance request through LCS. A couple of examples for that is refreshing your sandbox environment with a copy of your production data, or moving your production database to a specific point in time, putting your system in maintenance mode. These kind of things constitute as a maintenance request. So you submit a maintenance request through LCS. A service request is created for the Microsoft Service Engineering team. Someone there gets notified that this is a ticket that's been created. They acknowledge the receipt of that ticket, and then eventually go ahead and execute the maintenance request at the requested time. I'm going to go ahead and show you how this can be done through LCS. So what we have out here is in LCS, I can actually, I'm going to switch to my client here. So first I'm going to walk through the flow of how do you go about reporting a support incident. I am an end user who's been logging journal entries, and I've encountered an issue. When I click on the help button, there is contact your support team right at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to say performance issue when filing journal entries. And I'm going to put that as a description. I can specify when this issue occurred. This is going to help the person who's troubleshooting go ahead and filter the logs to that specific point in time. I can define the priority and severity of the issue here. I can say this is something that's creating a critical work stoppage. I can upload task recordings. For those who are familiar with this process, previously, when you had a bunch of repro steps, there were always cases when the person who's actually diagnosing the issue would go through the repro, and then they're not at the same state where the end user is, and there was a lot of back and forth there. So to eliminate some of those things, what the end user can do is they can record the scenario where they're encountering the issue, attach it right here. It gets attached with the ticket. The person who's troubleshooting it on the other end can download the task recording and play it back. That way they end up at the same state where the end user was, just reducing that back and forth between and kind of helping with faster resolution for issues. I'm going to say it's okay for Microsoft to contact me, and I'm going to hit submit. As I mentioned, what this is going to do, it's going to collect in the back end information about what browser you're running on, what form you're in. So if it's Chrome, IE, all of that rich metadata gets collected. So my ticket has been logged. Now I'm going to switch roles to be sort of the IT admin for that customer. I know a ticket's gotten created. So I'm going to go into my LCS project, and I'm going to go into my support portal. This is where all of the support incidents that get created show up. So as you can see, 4037 was my ID. My issue got created. It's not assigned to anyone for troubleshooting yet. I'm going to go ahead and open it. I'm going to show you how this shows up in Visual Studio. So this is sort of the Visual Studio associated with it. And you might not be able to see the details, but there's a lot of rich metadata in terms of which user reported the issue, what browser it was reported on, what was sort of the environment ID where it came from. All of these parameters will help with the actual troubleshooting. What I can also do is I can say I've gone ahead, I've done the troubleshooting, and I figured out this is an issue that Microsoft needs to look at. So I can directly go ahead and I can click on Submit to Microsoft, I can select which support plan I want to choose, and then go ahead and escalate the issue to Microsoft. I'm not going to go through that flow right here because I believe there is a separate session that goes deep dive into the support plans and the support workflows, but just a high-level overview of how that's done. The second flow that I spoke about earlier was about service requests. So where do you come in and submit service requests to Microsoft if you want to do a sandbox refresh from your production data? So the tab is right here. I'm going to click on service request, and I can say I'm going to click on add. I can select what service request I want to do. So I can select database refresh request. I can specify what is my source environment. So I'm going to say my source environment is a production. I have a demo sandbox. I have a specific database. And I need to specify at what downtime I'm okay when the sandbox refresh is to be executed by the service engineering team. I'm going to acknowledge a couple of steps. I'm going to hit next, and then I can go ahead and submit the request. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to go to the service engineering team. We have a team that's available 24/7, 365 days, that is always actively looking at these items and executing on them as the time comes. So with that, kind of switching back to the presentation. Sorry for that. Next step. Troubleshooting a performance issue using advanced SQL troubleshooting tools. You have a support incident now that's been reported. How do you go about troubleshooting it? In 2012 or in previous AX releases, it was all dependent on logs. You needed someone to collect the logs from that environment, give it to the support person, who then had to go and do the troubleshooting. We've brought all of this rich information to AX now. What we've done is with Dynamics 365 for operations, we have a very rich set of telemetry data that is instrumented through all of the various components. Whether you talk about retail, whether it's warehouse management, supply chain, all of these various components log a lot of telemetry data that will help you diagnose issues. It helps you build sort of kind of a storyboard view of what a user does. And I'll show you that in just a second. So what is kind of the importance of this rich telemetry, right? It falls under three buckets: monitoring, diagnostics, and analytics. Monitoring is in real time. With a cloud service, you want to be alerted as soon as something goes wrong. You don't want to wait for someone, for an end user or a customer to notify you. So we've set up two kinds of monitoring specifically. One is availability monitoring, and second is environment health monitoring. Availability monitoring tells you, is your environment up and running? Can you actually perform business operations on this environment? That is what a true test is. And the results of that, actually, the way we do that is by performing synthetic transactions. And the results of those transactions are reported back. We have alerts set up, so if something of that sort fails, our service engineering team is notified immediately in less than 60 seconds, and they're on board with it to actually start troubleshooting issues there. The second kind of monitoring is environment health monitoring. How is health monitors? So basically, sort of, we collect a lot of health metrics from your environments. Think of it as CPU usage, SQL deadlocks, or SQL connection failures. All of these are health metrics that we collect, and we've set threshold values to create monitors. What that means is, if your CPU usage is going above 70%, I want to know immediately, and I want someone investigating that issue. That's how quick, even before an end user actually starts seeing issues because of that, we have someone looking at them. So we have notifications and alerting in real time when an issue is detected. The second block is basically the diagnostics block. This is sort of the latency there is about less than 5 minutes. When an end user performs an action, in less than 5 to 10 minutes in LCS, you will see a stream of what that user performed. You'll be able to exactly see what form he interacted with, what was the control he clicked, what was the action he performed. It's a great way for someone who's troubleshooting to see what was going on in the system at that time. We've also invested heavily in adding additional advanced SQL troubleshooting tools. So folks who are very familiar with perf analyzer and dyne perf kind of tools that they used to use with AX 2012, we've bought some of those capabilities with improved visualizations into LCS. So now you have the ability to get to the query plans and things like that. The third bucket, which we call sort of the cold path, is analytics. This is something that Microsoft uses heavily to understand what is the feature usage, how heavily is something being used, what is the performance of a certain area, are there certain improvements that we need to make to improve the clickstream of a particular user, to improve the discoverability of a feature. This data is something that is stored for an extended period of time, and we use it to make feature improvements. Today, this is leveraged by Microsoft alone, but we do have it in our roadmap to open this up to customers and to partners so that you can make use of this rich telemetry as well to figure out maybe there are certain old features that you don't need anymore and you can deprecate, but you want to be able to get these insights to make those decisions, right? That way you have real data to support those decisions. Before I go on, I'm going to switch to my demo to show you how that works. Okay, so this is sort of my demo, one of my demo environments. I can switch in, I can go log into the diagnostics portal by clicking on environment monitoring. For someone who's troubleshooting an issue, even through the support portal where I showed you all of the support incidents previously, from there as well you can jump into troubleshooting as well. Actually, when you do that, the context of that support incident automatically gets translated. So your page is kind of filtered to the timestamp and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a timestamp. I'm going to say this issue was reported on 10th of March, around pretty specific in the time. I'm going to hit submit time. As you can see, I have a bunch of filters at the top. I can filter based on the user who reported the issue. I can have certain search terms. For example, if someone reported an issue on Ledger Journal, they can go ahead and filter based on that. And while that opens up, in the interest of time, I'm going to switch back to this. Let's see if that's... Okay, there we go. Perfect. So what you can see at the top is basically what are the interactions that are happening on my system at the time the issue was reported. For example, it could be a particular, if someone's reporting a performance issue and there is a batch job that's executing at the back end, that might be causing the performance issue on the system and pulling the system down. That might be something you'll be able to come here and see. Other than the active requests at the top, you'll see sort of the user load. What users are actually using the system at this time. The next section shows you the activity load. So if I actually hover over it, you'll actually see what are the, what form the user interacted with, what control he clicked on, and what was the action he did. So for example, Ledger Journal table was the form, journal lines was the control, and clicked was the action. I can actually go about filtering using search terms as well. So I'm going to say, since the issue was reported to Ledger Journal, let me filter down the logs bit. I can come here and I'm going to see sort of a tabular view of what that user did. So as you can see, you'll see him entering a bunch of Ledger Journal entries and then eventually posting the journal ledger. When customers report issues, our internal engineering team, only if the customer has approved access, can go ahead and actually uses this for troubleshooting as well. We had, for example, we had a scenario the other day which was reported where there was some data corruption issue. And the engineering team was able to figure out that the user had configured number sequences in a different way, and they had forgotten to enter a particular purchase ID. They were able to get to that level of information from here itself. For someone who's interested in sort of doing advanced diagnostics, they can go and do it in view raw logs. This is where we have a bunch of predefined queries that are available for them to use. We continue to add more and more queries here. We have queries for predefined queries for crashes, deadlocks, slow queries, MR, etc. One quick thing that I want to show in the interest of time is the SQL diagnostics kind of area. So this is where it basically shows you an aggregated view of what are the most expensive queries that ran on my system based on the various parameters defined here. For example, duration, CPU time, logical I/O, etc. I can get to the detailed SQL statement as well as the query plan right here once I select one. We also have SQL Now. This is kind of more of a just-in-time view of SQL diagnostics. What that does is, say for example, someone says reporting an issue is taking a really long time. Running a report is taking a really long time. I want to see what are the queries executing in the back end at this time. I can come in here, keep this open. The end user runs a report. I can refresh out here, and I can immediately see what are the queries that are getting executed. So this is kind of the diagnostics experience that we've added to LCS. We have also index analysis that lets you see what are the most expensive indexes on your system. One of the things we have in our roadmap is to enable simple actions like enabling, disabling indexes and things like that from here itself. That way it's more self-serve and you don't have to go to the service engineering team for the smallest of tasks. Kind of moving to the next slide here. Keep your environment healthy by staying current in the platform using automated update flows. That's a long statement. The image kind of here conveys it all. You can see a guy who's watering his plants, a routine task that they need to do to kind of keep the plants healthy. Similarly, if you consider the platform just like an infrastructure component, you want to make sure it's continuously healthy. That way your application can run on top of it, right? What we're recommending is that folks try and stay on the current platform update as far as possible. That way you have all of the latest fixes that Microsoft releases, if they're related to performance, reliability, any new features. And I'll show you how easy it is to stay current here in a second. So what is kind of the flow here, right? You have Lifecycle Services, the various assets in Lifecycle Services. We release the monthly platform update as a package that's available in LCS. You have the various environments, your sandbox and production. What you can do is you can download and apply a platform package on your sandbox. You validate it, you sign off, and you move it to production. It's literally a couple of clicks that enables you to do that, and I'll show you, I'll demo that to you in a minute here. One thing I want to call out, if you consider the platform as an infrastructure component, there basically are no updates required to your application. So any of your ISV or partner customizations do not need to change. You don't need to make any updates to them. That is really the one thing that we want to make sure is there is no real uptake that's required from these monthly platform updates. It should just be like a Windows update that you apply, right? Sort of some of the questions that we kind of get, what do these new platform releases contain? They contain sort of the latest performance reliability fixes, any new features that we release. We guarantee that it's backward and forward compatible. Update 3 onwards, updating the platform should be a one-click action. One of the things that today the process is a bit sort of, it takes, you need a bit of a workaround. We upload the package to the asset library and then you have to download it and then apply it on your environments. We're working on streamlining that flow in the next couple of months to make it as smooth as possible for you. Again, as I mentioned, ISP and partner code does not need to be upgraded as a result of this, as a result of taking the latest platform update. Kind of showing you what that sort of a wireframe, this is not available today, but just what we're looking to envisioning to build. You'll sort of have a tile experience which shows you the latest platform that's there. You click on it, you hit apply, and boom, your platform's updated. Now you have a healthy platform available. The next step, right? Now how do you make sure any application issues are addressed? For example, if you have customizations, or based on your troubleshooting, if you've identified that there was actually an application issue that needs to be fixed, how do you go about doing that? So the flow for that is quite similar, but I'll show that in a second. Again, you have hotfixes that Microsoft releases. You have customizations from ISVs or partners. We have the various environments that are there. If it is an application hotfix, you need to download it first on your dev box. You could have any code customizations. You need to merge and resolve conflicts. Once you've done that, you generate a package. You upload this package to LCS as a deployable package. From there on, you go about applying it on your sandbox, right? On your sandbox, you can also directly apply sort of a binary update that Microsoft releases. There are a couple of steps on your sandbox environment. First, one of the things you would do is you would take a refresh of your data on your sandbox from your production system. That way, you're testing on the latest data set, right? You do that, you apply the update, you validate it, and then you sign off. Only once you do that, do we allow you to release it to production. We've inbuilt this in our flows itself. Only if a package has been applied on sandbox does it then get moved to production. One reason to enforce that is that way you're not taking something to production that's not actually tested, that you haven't approved as a release candidate to move into your production system. This will maintain the health of your production environment as well. So, quick overview, the types of updates. You have customizations, you have application code fixes, there could be a new application release. How do you go about discovering an update? In Lifecycle Services, we have a couple of ways to discover an update. We have issue search. This is where you would come in and you could search for an issue. A particular KB number. Say, for example, the support guy told you this is a particular KB that you need to apply. You go about issue search, you can search for it, and go about taking that hotfix that way. We have the update tiles. This is where you'll see all of the hotfixes that are applicable to your environment. That's something that I'd shown in the wireframe before, where you see, okay, I have about 10 hotfixes that I have not taken yet. The next step, once you've found an update that you need to apply, you go about actually applying it on your environment. I won't talk about that because I'll demo it here in a second. And once the update is applied, you actually want to verify that it truly got applied, where we've enabled it for you to see in the environment details view itself what is the version that you're running. That way you have a clear-cut idea whether it succeeded or not. So with that, I'm going to switch to my demo. So let's go about, I wanted to show you sort of the phases that I spoke about, right? How do you discover an update? This is the tiles experience that you see. I have the all binary updates tile. That's what's showing me all of the binary fixes that Microsoft has made to the platform that are available here. We have the application X++ fixes, so if there are any code fixes, X++ hotfix that Microsoft releases, it's going to show up here. It shows me only the updates that I have not applied. Clearly, I have not applied any updates on this environment, so the number is really high. The other place where you can go and search for an update is issue search. The way to get to that is from LCS. I can click on issue search. And as I mentioned, I can, since the issue was on Ledger Journal, I can click on Ledger, and it's going to show me all of the KBs that are there. It'll show me details in terms of what was the problem, what was the actual change that was made. I can go ahead and download the actual hotfix here. All of the details are available for you to view. It also shows you what version it's applicable for. So let's assume I've got a hotfix, an application code fix. I've applied this on my dev environment. I've merged any of the code configs I have, and I've generated a package. Now I want to go about applying this on my sandbox environment. How do I do that? So in LCS, I go into asset library. Asset library, think of it just as a SharePoint for assets, right? This is where it's like a repository for all of the different assets that you have. So I'm going to go into software deployable packages, and I'm going to go ahead and upload an asset. So I'm going to say this is a tech-ready demo package test. I'm going to go ahead and upload an asset that I have, and I'm going to hit upload. What we've also done is we've added a bunch of validations out here. So as you can see, this package is now first going to be validated to make sure that it meets the it meets the right format, whether it's applicable to your environment. So there's certain basic validations that we run. Once it's validated, you'll see that it turns green. So for example, I have a package out here that is valid. It'll show you the validation status as valid right below. One other thing that you could do is I have an application package or a customization that's there, and I want to merge it with a binary package, a binary fix from Microsoft. You can do that by merging multiple packages through the asset library. So for example, I'm going to select a package out here. I'm going to say I want to combine this application package that I had created along with the binary update that I have. And when I do that, okay, let's see. Come on. Never mind. It doesn't seem to be working right now. But anyways, the merge button shows up, and what that allows you to do is that it allows you to merge multiple packages and create a combined package. For example, I had created one right before our demo. I have this merged package. It's a way for you to combine a package of each type. So if you have a retail package, an application package, a binary package, you could reduce the time required to apply a package on your environment by doing that. Now I've merged my package. I'm going to go about applying it on my environment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to my environment. I'm going to go ahead into my sandbox. One of the first things that I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to take a copy of production data into my sandbox environment, right? That's sort of the first steps. So what I can do is I'm going to go ahead into maintain, click on restore DB. I can pick a prod environment, hit next, agree to terms and conditions, and then hit submit. When I hit submit, what it's going to do is it's going to put my environment into sort of this restore in progress state, and it's going to start taking a copy of the production data onto my sandbox. And now my sandbox is refreshed. It's ready for applying a package. Let's do that next. One of the things I want to quickly call out is we added this feature called message online users. What that lets you do, it lets you message the actual end users, letting them know that there is an update that's going to be applied on their environment. So their service might get impacted. I could go ahead and when I select on that, it has a pre-populated message that you can then go ahead and send to the actual end users. While that opens up, there we go. Broadcast a new message for downtime. I can select that, and I can select a time when I want to send it to the end users. This way, the end users, a good way for you to communicate to them. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select Apply Updates. This is going to show me a list of all of the deployable packages that I have uploaded in the asset library. So if I had created any of those, it would show up right here. I'm going to select the retail package, and I'm going to hit Apply. What this does is it puts that particular package, my environment, into the servicing state and starts applying that package. Before it does that, we run a bunch of validations to make sure, is this package really applicable on your environment or not? And only once those validations succeed does the package application actually progress. You'll continue to see the progress of the application here in terms of the steps that are currently executing. Just like a cookery show, I've kind of pre-cooked one, and I've kept that ready to show you guys how that looks. So this is one that has been completed. As you can see, I have a progress bar indicating how many steps were completed. I have additional logs for troubleshooting if anything goes wrong. I can go ahead and sign off on a particular issue, and that's pretty much it. One thing, so this is now sandbox. I've validated it, right? How do I move this to production? The next step to move it to production is I go ahead into the asset library and I mark that particular package as a release candidate. I state explicitly this is a package I want to move to production, and then I go about submitting a request to the service engineering team to do that. One last thing I want to highlight quickly is we want to make sure, for businesses, it's very critical to make sure that there is an audit trail of what happens on an environment. And so we've enabled that right through the environment page itself. When I click on history, that is going to show me an audit trail of all the packages that were applied on your environment. As we make more and more maintenance requests self-serve, you will start seeing those show up here as well. So for example, if you refreshed your environment with a copy of your production data, you'll see an entry out here. And we're enhancing this. That way you have a full audit trail of what was done on your environment. With that, I'm going to quickly just share one last thing before I hand this over to Meera, kind of to give you a roadmap view of what we've accomplished in the last 6 months and where we're going. In the last 6 months, we've enabled self-serve update flows on all environment types through LCS. For folks who initially started on Dynamics 365 for operations might remember the manual, tedious way you had to go and apply packages on an environment, and hopefully should see the benefit of this improvement. We've hardened package application flows through validations that we've added that I spoke about earlier. You have the ability to notify end users of production downtime. You can restore sandbox with a copy of your production data. We've reduced package application times by about 60% with our January release of LCS. You can merge multiple packages into a single package. What are we focusing on in the next 6 months? Almost zero downtime when applying updates, a self-serve update flow to prod. So even in production, you don't have to submit a request to the service engineering team. You can go through the same process that I did in Sandbox to apply a package. Ability to schedule updates, improve notifications, other maintenance requests that I mentioned, we're also looking to making those self-serve. So that is kind of the roadmap view of what we're looking to focus on in the next 6 months. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Meera. And
thank you, Manali. That was a good overview of servicing and diagnostics there. So the next item we wanted to share with you was around upgrade itself, right? So we talked about platform updates that should be pretty much non-intrusive. Application updates that you will hear with time should also get non-intrusive. And the last one is major upgrades. And major upgrades typically will happen twice a year. And in this particular case, there may be topology changes. There might be many other things like this that might come into play. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So in a major upgrade, one of the big things we're looking at is how do you upgrade between 7.x and 7.y. So how do you, if you are on RTW of operations today, how do you move for 7 to 7.1, which was a major release that we shipped a couple of months back, in November actually, that we shipped. So to do that, actually we have an in-depth session later, but it is something where we were taking many hours of downtime to do such a major upgrade, which we are drastically bringing down by actually bringing up a parallel instance that you will do your upgrades on. So you'll do the code upgrades on your parallel instance, and the only downtime you will face will be the time to upgrade the data in place. And that also we will, hopefully with time, as you're more current, the time taken for data upgrades will be brought down quite a bit. And this should be a matter of hours in which you should be able to upgrade the system. The two other points that I have up there, and we have deep dive sessions for both of them. One is 2012 upgrade. We are very much, and I think this was mentioned in Shree's keynote also, we're very focused on trying to get 2012 to be upgraded to operations seamlessly. And we are trying to follow an approach where you follow phases of analyze, execute, and validate. So you will have a way to estimate what kind of effort is involved to actually perform the upgrade. We will leverage LCS as the main forum by which you do this, where you talk to your 2012 instance, bring some of the upgrade artifacts in, and then you put it on to your Dynamics 365 for operations instance. So we're bringing all of this together as a combined holistic flow, and that is something that you can also get in the deep dive session. 2009 upgrade is primarily a data migration via the migration tool set that we have, where you bring together the master data and opening balances. And this is also a place where we are very interested in partnering with people to start that effort and move you on to Dynamics 365 for operations. And that is something that will also be available very shortly, and we are taking preview customers already. So this is sort of one of the last points we wanted to bring together. As you heard in Shree's keynote earlier, one of the big movements is towards bringing not just the complex business processes you have within operations that will stay within operations, but the ability to interact between the various Dynamics 365 applications. So may it be CRM, you bring all of that data in together with common data model, and how do you actually enable this experience where you switch between these applications in a seamless way. So you might have an instance where you actually have your business processes in AX, but you potentially want to bring the prospect to cash scenario where CRM is hosting some of the prospects itself, right? And you're bringing together in one Power App application where you're bringing these two data together and hosting it. So to do this, essentially the page we believe end users will essentially look at is home.dynamics.com. So that is the page that we expect end users will see all these applications come together in a way. So let's hope the switch happens. No. Okay, to this extent. That should help. Okay, so this is the home.dynamics.com where you will see the operation styles that you're operating. So the end user essentially comes here and maybe they're doing certain tasks in operations, but they're doing some certain tasks in a Power App that was built, right? So in which case they can see all of the apps that are pertinent to their specific interactions right here in home.dynamics.com. So I'll go ahead and basically what you can do is you can open any of these applications, and once you open them, of course, you can switch between them too as needed to switch between the apps. So what we have is Dynamics 365 for operations here, but you can go back into, okay, I just clicked on sign in. Let me go back in. But you can basically task switch between each of those, right? And that is something that is available as needed to go back and forth between the various applications. So to do this, also the way we have instrumented how you show Dynamics for Operations style within the home page is through LCS. So essentially, once you go into one of the environments, the 3 environments that I have for this particular subscription is available here. But what you can do is, of course, you can select one of these environments. You go into the detail of that particular environment. And what you have here is you have the ability to pin this environment to the Dynamics 365 homepage. So you can either pin it, or if you think that it doesn't work well for your end users to see it, you can unpin it, right? You can choose to pin a demo environment. You can choose to pin a sandbox or a production environment as you wish. And that will essentially enable it to be shown right here in home.dynamics.com, and you can take it from there and see all the apps that the specific end user has listed for them. With that, let me go to our last slide, just to, I know we have covered quite a bit of information covering the various phases. So let me just end with the themes that we are focused on. And yeah, so the themes that we are focused on, at least I would like you to take away this at the end of this session. One is about faster time to value, faster implementations, or repeatable implementations, as we call it. That is a theme that we are very much focused on improving. The BPM improvements that you saw, the methodology improvements that you saw, all of this is definitely something that we are very keen on bringing down. I think the number that Shri quoted was it's 48 days. One of the implementations we're looking to beat that number, and that's exactly where we want LCS to play a big role in trying to improve and make the implementations much faster. The next one is around continuous update. We want you to stay current. We want you to reduce the servicing downtime. We talk more about extensibility. We have sealed the platform. We are looking to seal the application, and you will hear more about those efforts and what is exactly involved. All of this is to really make you current. It's a cloud service that's available where you're supposed to be able to avail of the latest innovation always, right? So, and that's exactly the theme we are shooting towards, and we really want more feedback from you folks as we head into this extensibility, where we'll partner with you to improve the way we make these updates. The last one that I have there is around self-service, and Manali talked about this quite a bit. We are having an opportunity for you today to do some of these tickets to the service engineers. But our goal is really to eliminate any of that. All of this should be available to you through Lifecycle Services at your fingertips, where you can self-diagnose your problem, look at what the exact issue is, and apply the fix as needed directly into your system. So that is something that we are looking to enable. We are continuously working on it, and like we said, we release monthly, so we will continuously improve this entire process as we go forward. So with that, let me go to the slide on suggested sessions. Plenty of deep dive sessions on all the things that we showed you today. I know we kind of did like a whirlwind tour of a lot of stuff here, but there are certainly deep dive sessions here that are worth going to on any of these topics, where you will be able to gather more information as you go along.
Open up for Q&A.
Yeah, so with this, let me go ahead and open it up for Q&A, feedback, anything that you have.
Yes.
Please. I think we may have some mics, I suppose. Let's go ahead and I'll repeat your question.
So the question, and I'm going to repeat the question just so that I understand it. The question is that if when taking an application fix, can you take the fix for a specific issue, or do you need to take all of the fixes that are available? Is that correct? So we have two kinds of updates that we release. One are fixes for our platform. The fixes to the platform are cumulative, so there is no way to get a granular fix. You get all of the fixes that have been released up to that time. That kind of is in accordance with our effort to make sure that you stay current on all of the fixes that we've released up to that point in time. When it comes to application fixes, so for example, if there's an X++ code fix that we've made, those are granular. Those you can take the fix only for a specific issue. So as I mentioned earlier, if there was a journal ledger performance issue and there was a fix that we had made, you can get just the fix for that particular issue. You don't need to take all of the updates released up to that point in time. But for platform fixes, it is a cumulative update, and you get all of the ones that we've shipped. Yes. Yes.
Very impressive. Thank you for the demo. Quick question. Are any features there not available for on-prem deployments?
Yeah, our goal is to make a lot of these available for on-prem deployment. I think we have a matrix of what is and what is not that we can share, but our goal is to make available at least some of the cloud, at least LCS itself for on-prem deployments.
Yeah, so shoot from the hip, like what % of it is available right now?
So right now, on-prem is really, we're actually looking at doing a preview and then a public preview. So we're still building some of those features. But just the way, as you saw right now, starting June onwards, you'll start seeing some of these improvements come through. We ship in a monthly cadence as well. So you'll see some of these features light up, whether it's applying updates to LCS for an on-prem instance, whether it's some of the telemetry monitoring pieces. So we're looking at adding all of those rich information there as well, but it'll be sort of in a continuous cadence for sure. Yes, sorry, here first.
Yeah, on-prem is definitely a priority that we are working on, and I believe the time frame is in the summer. Later in the
we
summer.
can look at making that. I don't know if there's a matrix that's publicly available, but we can look at putting something together. As Shri pointed out in his keynote as well, sort of the LCS, if you saw in his diagram, sat at the bottom of all of it, right? So most of these features we're looking to bring to LCS. Some of them might not be available on day one that we go public, but that is the goal, that is the aim, to make sure that it's there.
We do have a roundtable for on-prem that's also that we are discussing. Maybe we can
share more details.
We can share
with
and
you
get
there,
some feedback on in that particular roundtable.
Yes. Thank you.
When you were talking about the business process model, you mentioned on one of the slides that there was support for data configuration based on business processes, and
Yeah.
Is that available for D365? I know there was some.
Yeah, so there is the process data packages that we have today. And in fact, Robert Badave, who will present, will go into what we are trying to do in the way in which we deploy configurations within each of the business process model itself. So that is something that we are definitely investing in terms of making. It's really tying the two pieces together. We have configuration data management today available standalone as a set of packages that you can apply in any environment. It's tying up the way you apply configurations and into the BPM is what is. Right, that connection itself doesn't exist, you're right. And that's exactly what we plan to do very shortly. So, yeah, he will actually go into it in a fair amount of detail.
There was a question here. Yes. So, yeah. So, the question here was, some of these tasks are more specific to a DB admin, some of them are more specific to a project owner. How do you segregate who does what? So, in Lifecycle Services, when a project is set up, you set up roles and security for your project as well. We have a couple of roles in LCS today, project owner being one, and organization admin being another, environment manager being another. So based on what role you're in, you see specific things. For example, environment manager or environment admin could be the one who's responsible for troubleshooting issues, who's responsible for managing your sandbox environments, and things like that. So you'll assign specific people to those roles, and based on that. Project owner kind of sits at the top. He's the one who has the highest privileges. He can do everything within the project, but otherwise you have more restricted roles as well. We can share more details about that if you'd like. We don't have a specific role for a DBA today, but environment admin would be the role for a DBA. Okay. Yes?
Do you have any plans to improve security and the around the business process model? At the moment, pretty much anybody can click on anything at any time, which will do the process like just
as far as I know, I think there are certain improvements. I know that we're working on BPM. This is great feedback. We'll absolutely take it back on looking to adding more security around BPM and integrating it with our current security framework within LCS. So that's
good feedback.
Definitely take that feedback back and pass it on. Yes. I'm sorry. The release date on hotfixes? Sure. So the question is around release date for hotfixes. I believe the concern is that today you just see all of the hotfixes that are there. There's no way to know which are new, which are not. I think that very valid concern and great feedback. We'll definitely take it back. We don't have a mechanism to do that today. We have an experience where we show you what's applicable to your environment, but we can definitely look at segregating it based on, these are the fixes released on the last 7 days kind of theme. For sure. Thank you. Yes. Sure. So the question is that in monitoring diagnostics, we have a bunch of alerts. Can those alerts be sent to the System Center Operations Management, which is one of Microsoft's monitoring tools that's been there? So we've heard that feedback before. Actually, it's not just with SCOM. We've heard that feedback about integrating with other third-party tools as well. That's there on our roadmap. One of the things what we want to do is instead of integrating with other tools, we want to bring those features into LCS. That way everything is managed through a single portal. You don't have to go through different interfaces to do that. But definitely something we've heard. We have it on our roadmap. Something that we look at doing in the next couple of months for sure. Yes.
The package is approved and put into production. If there's something wrong, is it possible to get a
Yeah, the question is, if you put a package in production and if something is wrong, can you get it reversed? So I'll mention a couple of points there. One, the whole idea that we've added is you need to apply a package in sandbox first before moving into production. So the hope and expectation is that you've identified any issues in sandbox before moving into production. Having said that, that's definitely possible. Today we support roll forward, which means you fix any issues and then only you can move forward. But we are aggressively working on a rollback feature as well. Something that you should expect to see light up in the next 3 to 6 months for sure. That has been one of the biggest feedbacks we've heard, and trust me, top of the list. Okay, I think that's it. If there are any other questions, concerns? Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. So the question is, it is more about change management, not about test management. Oh, the ALM. So I know there is a different session on ALM. We can look it up and provide more details where they're planning to cover the full Dev ALM spectrum of things. We didn't go over it in here, but there is a deep dive session on it for sure that you can look at.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I think the service requests should show, I think they show in the local time zone, but I can take that feedback back for sure. Sure.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
And we're here to answer more questions.
Yes, absolutely.